Listen, there's a power in silence. Not every move you make needs to be announced. Not every step you take needs an audience. I'm talking about the kind of work that speaks for itself. The kind of work that doesn't need to be validated by applause, recognition, or approval from anyone. It's in the quiet moments that the real transformation happens. The secret is this: you don't have to shout about your purpose. You don't have to broadcast your vision. When you work in silence, the results will make noise for you. So today, I want you to stop waiting for permission, stop asking for validation, and start working in the quiet, in the peace of knowing that your time will come. Your success doesn't need to be explained. Let your results do the talking. In a world where we are constantly seeking validation and recognition, there's a profound truth that many overlook. Real growth happens when you focus on the process, not the praise. Too often we find ourselves caught in the trap of needing external approval to validate our efforts. We get caught up in the likes, the comments, the shares, and the applause. But what happens when those things aren't there? What happens when the world doesn't notice your effort, your late nights, your sacrifices? Do you stop? Do you give up? Do you let the absence of recognition determine your worth or your future? The reality is that the pursuit of external praise can distract you from what truly matters, the work itself. When we focus too much on the need for external validation, we miss the opportunity to grow internally. There's a beauty in working for the sake of the process rather than the outcome. It's easy to be motivated when we can see the results immediately or when others affirm our actions, but real commitment is birthed in the trenches, when no one is watching, when no one is there to cheer you on. This is where the foundation of success is built. This is where you truly learn the depths of your potential. Too many of us are fixated on the idea of instant success or the need for immediate recognition. It's not enough to put in the work if we don't get immediate feedback. But true mastery, true success comes when you embrace the process. It comes when you are committed to doing the work because you know it's necessary for your growth, not because someone is going to pat you on the back. When you learn to love the process, the results will come, but they won't be the driving force behind your efforts. You'll learn to embrace the grind and understand that each day you show up, each day you keep going is a step towards something greater, even if the world doesn't acknowledge it immediately. Think about the greats, the ones who have made a lasting impact in their fields. Most of them didn't rise to prominence because they sought praise. They rose because they stayed focused on their craft, honing their skills in private. They didn't wait for approval to keep working. They didn't need validation to keep going. They were motivated by a deeper sense of purpose and commitment. The more you focus on the process, the more you begin to understand that praise is fleeting, but the work, the dedication, the consistency, they are what build empires. What does it look like to focus on the process? It means waking up every day with a commitment to put in the work regardless of the outcome. It means being willing to push through moments of doubt and uncertainty even when no one is cheering you on. It's about making the decision to show up for yourself day in and day out, even when the results aren't immediate, even when the accolades aren't pouring in. When you can silence the need for praise and focus solely on the growth and development of your craft, you give yourself the freedom to truly succeed. A key part of this journey is learning how to celebrate small wins. We're often taught to wait for the big moments, the breakthroughs, the grand achievements, but the reality is that success is built on the small, often unnoticed victories. It's in the little progress you make each day that the foundation for bigger success is laid. It's the hours you spend improving your skills, the moments of learning that happen in silence that prepare you for when the world finally takes notice. You can't rush that process, and you shouldn't want to. It's the consistency that counts. Every moment you dedicate to the work, no matter how small, is a moment that moves you closer to your goal. This doesn't mean that recognition is bad or that there's something wrong with wanting to be acknowledged for your hard work. We all want to be seen. We all want to know that our efforts are appreciated. But when we make the pursuit of recognition our primary motivation, we set ourselves up for disappointment. Praise is not guaranteed, and it doesn't always come when we think it should. And if we're not careful, we can become discouraged and give up when we don't receive the affirmation we believe we deserve. When you work for the process and not the praise, you build resilience. You develop the ability to keep going even when no one is watching. You learn to trust the journey, to believe in the quiet work that is happening behind the scenes. This is where true growth happens. You start to see that progress is not always linear, that success doesn't always look like what you expect it to. Sometimes it's in the quiet moments that your greatest breakthroughs occur. And when those breakthroughs do come, they'll be yours to own because you stayed committed to the process, not the applause. There's also a deep sense of peace that comes from focusing on the process instead of the praise. When you take the pressure off of yourself to constantly seek approval, you allow yourself to create freely. You stop measuring your worth based on the feedback from others, and you begin to measure it based on your own growth. You'll find that you can move forward without the weight of expectations constantly bearing down on you. You can take risks without fearing judgment, and you can push yourself beyond what you thought possible because you're no longer dependent on external validation. This mindset shift is not easy, but it's necessary. It's easy to get caught up in the rat race of comparing yourself to others, to see someone else's success and think that you're falling behind. But comparison is the thief of joy, and it will rob you of the ability to fully appreciate your own journey. When you focus on the process, you stop comparing yourself to others. You learn to celebrate your own milestones, no matter how small they seem, and you stop needing the approval of others to feel validated. You begin to understand that your journey is your own and it doesn't need to look like anyone else's to be successful. This is a mindset that separates those who achieve long-term success from those who burn out chasing after short-term praise. The work that lasts, the work that truly makes a difference, is built on consistency, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to the process. It's about showing up day in and day out and doing the work even when no one is watching. It's about putting in the hours, the effort, the dedication, not for the applause, but because you understand that it's all part of the bigger picture. When you work in silence, when you focus on the process, you give yourself the freedom to grow, to evolve, and to create something that will stand the test of time. In our fast-paced world, it's easy to get discouraged when things don't happen immediately. We want instant results, instant success, and immediate recognition for our efforts. But the truth is, consistency and quietness is where the real breakthroughs happen. It's in those moments when no one is watching that you truly develop your skills, hone your craft, and set yourself up for success. In a society where instant gratification has become the norm, the idea of consistency may seem out of place. But in reality, consistency is the backbone of lasting success. It's the quiet persistence that allows you to keep going when others would quit. And it's in those quiet moments that the foundation for something truly extraordinary is built. Consistency doesn't always come with a fanfare. It doesn't always come with immediate results or visible rewards. It's easy to get discouraged when we don't see things progressing as quickly as we hoped. But the beauty of consistency is that over time, the results become undeniable. What starts as small, seemingly insignificant actions begins to compound into something powerful. It's the daily effort, the constant dedication, the willingness to keep going even when the finish line seems out of reach that eventually leads to breakthrough. Think of a seed that is planted in the ground. At first, you can't see anything happening. It looks like nothing is changing. The seed is buried in the soil and there's no visible growth. But underneath the surface, something is happening. The roots are beginning to form. The plant is pushing its way up, and with each passing day, it's getting closer to breaking through the soil. If you were to dig it up every day to check its progress, you disrupt its growth. But if you allow it to stay planted, and if you continue to water it, even when you don't see the results, eventually it will break through the surface, and you'll witness the power of the consistent, quiet work that has been happening beneath the surface all along. This is how real success works. It's not about the flashy moments or the overnight breakthroughs. It's about the slow, steady, consistent effort you put in every single day, even when the results aren't immediately visible. The key is understanding that success is built in the quiet, behind-the-scenes moments. It's in the hours of practice, the work you do when no one is watching, and the dedication you show when no one is applauding your efforts. When you can commit to the quiet, consistent work, you give yourself the opportunity to create something that lasts. The problem with expecting immediate results is that it sets us up for disappointment. If we're not careful, we can become addicted to the idea of quick fixes and shortcuts. We start looking for the fast track to success, and when we don't find it, we give up. But the truth is, there's no shortcut to real success. There's no substitute for hard work, consistency, and time. It takes time for the seed to grow. It takes time for the foundation to be laid. But with consistent effort, no matter how small the progress may seem, you will eventually see the breakthrough. Think about some of the most successful people in history. They didn't get to where they are by seeking immediate results or by looking for shortcuts. They got there by consistently putting in the work, even when it didn't seem like anything was happening. They showed up day after day, doing the work that needed to be done, trusting that their efforts would eventually lead to success. Their breakthroughs didn't happen overnight. They happened because they kept going, even when it seemed like the results were too far away to reach. They trusted the process, and they trusted that their consistency would eventually pay off. When you focus on consistency and quietness, you begin to shift your mindset from instant gratification to long-term success. You stop looking for the quick wins and start focusing on building something sustainable. You understand that the small steps you take today are part of a bigger journey. And even if you don't see the full picture yet, you trust that each step is getting you closer to your goal. This mindset shift is crucial for anyone who wants to achieve long-lasting success. It's about playing the long game, about making steady progress toward your goals, and knowing that the quiet, consistent work you put in today will lead to the breakthrough you've been waiting for. One of the hardest parts of this journey is staying committed when you don't see immediate progress. It's easy to get discouraged when you're working hard and not seeing the results you hoped for. But it's in these moments that consistency becomes most important. The moments when you feel like giving up are often the moments when you're on the verge of a breakthrough. If you quit too soon, you may never know how close you were to success. But if you stay committed and continue putting in the work, even when the progress seems slow, you'll eventually reach the point where all that quiet effort pays off. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean that you have to get everything right all the time. It's about showing up even when you don't feel like it and doing the best you can with what you have. It's about making progress, not perfection. It's about being willing to put in the work even when you're tired, even when it feels like no one notices, and even when the results aren't immediate. The more you commit to consistency, the more you'll begin to see the impact of your efforts. It's like compounding interest. The small, consistent actions you take today will compound over time to create massive results in the future. When you embrace consistency, you begin to understand that every effort counts. Even on the days when it feels like you're not making progress, you're still moving forward. Every small task, every moment of dedication, every hour spent working towards your goals is a step closer to your breakthrough. And one day you'll look back and realize that all those small, quiet moments of consistency added up to something extraordinary. Consistency is what separates those who achieve their goals from those who give up. It's easy to be motivated at the start of a project, but it's the consistent effort over time that truly leads to success. The people who succeed are the ones who keep going even when things get tough. They don't let setbacks or failures discourage them. They keep pushing forward, knowing that success is built on consistency and persistence. In the quiet moments when no one is watching, you are building the strength, the discipline, and the resilience that will carry you through the challenges ahead. These are the moments that matter the most. The breakthroughs don't happen because of big dramatic gestures. They happen because you've been quietly, consistently doing the work every day. And when the time comes for your breakthrough, it will be the culmination of all those quiet moments of dedication, persistence, and hard work. When you work in silence, when you focus on the task at hand without seeking the validation of others, you create a power that is undeniable. It's the kind of power that doesn't need to be explained, doesn't need to be justified, and doesn't rely on anyone else's approval. The results, the outcomes, the fruits of your labor, they speak for themselves. This is a concept that many overlook in our world today, where everything is about showing off, being seen, and seeking recognition. We live in an age where social media and instant gratification are the norm, and it can often feel like your worth is tied to how much attention you get. But real success doesn't need to be shouted from the rooftops. It doesn't need to be broadcasted for the world to see. When you work in silence, your work will make the noise for you. In a world that loves to compare and measure success against others, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking you need to make noise, be loud, and call attention to your every move. But think about the people who have made a lasting impact throughout history. Think about the legends who have changed the course of industries, movements, or even lives. Most of them didn't rise to prominence by seeking approval or drawing attention to themselves. They rose because their work was so powerful, so undeniable, that when it was finally recognized, it couldn't be ignored. Their success wasn't about who they knew or who was cheering them on. It was about what they did and how well they did it. The work they put in the quiet, behind-the-scenes moments spoke volumes, and that is the kind of work that lasts. When you choose to work in silence, you begin to release the need for external validation. You stop waiting for permission or affirmation. You stop checking for applause, and instead you focus on getting better at what you do. This shift in mindset is crucial for anyone who is serious about creating something meaningful. The more you stop relying on the external noise to measure your progress, the more you can focus on the internal growth that happens when you put in the work without the expectation of immediate reward. The best part about working in silence is that it gives you the space to make mistakes, learn, and grow without the pressure of someone's judgment hanging over you. When you're constantly seeking attention or validation, there's always a sense of being watched. Every misstep feels like it could be magnified, and every failure feels like it could be scrutinized. But when you work in silence, you're free from that weight. You're free to be imperfect. You're free to experiment and take risks. You're free to fail and get back up again without fear of being criticized by those who don't truly understand your vision. This is where true growth happens. When you are unapologetically focused on your craft and not worried about what others think. The best examples of successful people who have worked in silence are often the ones who are the most humble about their achievements. They don't need to boast about what they've done because the results speak for themselves. These are the people who understand that the real work doesn't need to be explained. It doesn't need to be validated. It's simply something that is done because it's a part of who they are. Whether it's a writer crafting their next masterpiece or an athlete pushing their limits, the real magic happens when they put in the work day after day without needing anyone else to see it or recognize it. Their work is their message, and the message is clear. I am dedicated, I am relentless, and I will let my results speak for me. When you focus on letting your work do the talking, you stop worrying about competing or comparing yourself to others. Your journey becomes about your own progress, your own growth, and your own development. It's not about outshining anyone else or trying to prove that you're better. It's about becoming the best version of yourself. regardless of who is watching or who is applauding. This mindset shift is liberating. It removes the need for external validation, and instead, it places the power squarely in your hands. You are in control of your success, and you are in control of how much effort and dedication you put into your work. The problem with constantly seeking approval from others is that it can be a never-ending cycle. You may get praise one moment, but the next moment you'll be seeking more. The need for constant recognition can quickly become exhausting. It's not sustainable, and it can lead to burnout. But when you work in silence, you free yourself from this cycle. You stop measuring your worth by the feedback you get from others. Instead, you measure it by the growth you see in yourself, by the progress you make, and by the satisfaction you get from knowing that you're putting in the work day after day, regardless of who sees it. Another benefit of working in silence is that it allows you to protect your peace. When you're focused on your craft, you're less likely to be distracted by the noise around you. The world is full of distractions, of people telling you how you should do things, of comparing yourself to others, and of measuring your success by the standards set by someone else. But when you work quietly, you create space for yourself. You create space to follow your own path, to trust your instincts, and to move forward without feeling like you have to live up to someone else's expectations. You protect your energy and your peace by not getting caught up in the noise. But let's not forget, working in silence doesn't mean isolating yourself or cutting off all communication. It simply means that you stop needing constant validation from others. It means you do the work because you are driven by a purpose that is greater than the applause, greater than the recognition, and greater than the opinions of others. When you work in silence, you are working for the bigger picture, not for the immediate gratification of being seen or heard. You are working for the long-term success that will eventually reveal itself when the time is right. And when that time comes, when the world finally sees the results of all the hard work, they will be amazed, but you will not be surprised. You'll know that you've been putting in the effort all along, quietly, steadily, and relentlessly. Think of the people who have built incredible legacies. Their work was often done in private. They faced challenges, setbacks, and failures, but they kept going because they didn't need the world to validate them. They didn't need constant recognition. They were committed to their craft, and when the time was right, their work was recognized. When your work speaks for you, you no longer have to explain your journey. The results will tell the story. The impact you make will be your legacy. And that impact, when it comes, will be undeniable. It will be louder than any words could ever be. Working in silence is not about hiding or being secretive. It's about committing to the work itself. It's about finding joy in the process and allowing that process to shape you. When you let your work speak for you, you stop being distracted by the noise around you. You focus on what matters most, the quality of the work, the dedication, and the persistence. And when the world finally takes notice, your success will be solid and unshakable because it was built on the quiet foundation of hard work, not the shifting sands of external validation.